Hello, friends, and welcome to the Bikes or Death podcast. My name is Patrick, and I am your host. And today, I'd like to start off by thanking my newest patrons. We got Ryan E., Bruce H., Rich O., and Paul A., all new to Patreon since the last episode. Thank you guys so much for stepping up and helping to support the Bikes or Death podcast. It is very much appreciated. And if you're interested in supporting the show, you can head over to bikesorddeath.com, and there's all kinds of ways to get on board and help me to keep on pumping out awesome content for your earbuds. All right, everybody, I'm going to be real brief today. First off, my guest is Sophiane, who really needs no introduction. He started off this year with a bang at Atlas Mtn Race by taking first. Then COVID hit, and he wasn't able to ride his bike for quite a bit of time, no training, just completely off. Finally, some of the restrictions were lifted, and racing was able to take place in certain parts of the world, and he didn't hesitate to hop on that train. So he hit the Hope 1000 in June. Then he did the Three Peaks in July, and he was fresh off the French Divide that he just completed, 2-3 days ago. He has been on an absolute tear. He is so much fun to talk to. And what can I say about Sophiane? He is one of the most charismatic, hard on his sleeve, badass human beings that is on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. The guy is seemingly almost unstoppable, inhuman. It doesn't make sense. And I'm so stoked that I got a chance to talk to him. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to be brief because I recorded this interview this morning. And I'm ready for you to hear it. I am so excited. Plus, I have a 3-year-old in the next room that is walking in right now, and she's promised to be very quiet. Are you going to be quiet, Sloan? Oh, she's going to be very quiet. All right, everybody. That's it for me. Let's get right to the show.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You let that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
Man, at this point, you're like a professional podcaster. You've probably done more podcasts than me at this point.
Well, I've done a lot of podcasts after the Atlas Mtn Race, actually. It was like nonstop. Like everybody wanted to talk to me about that race.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're like the most the most like well seen or most accessible bike pack racer, maybe is the best word. I don't know if other people are declining interviews or if you're just getting all the requests, but they're popping up everywhere.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. You know, I like to talk about the sport. I like to talk about my experience. So whenever someone asks questions, I'm just happy to answer.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you being accessible. I mean, you freaking just got off of a huge effort and, taking some time to chat. So I appreciate it, man. It's nice to, you're always so like generous with everything, your time, sharing your experiences, both through like podcast. I mean, there's, written articles and those kind of deals. And then, but even just like on Instagram, like you're so accessible like all the time. It's pretty cool because like, as you know, I mean, there's just dot watching. So if you don't have this other media surrounding it, then it's kind of, you don't really know, you don't really know what the athletes are going through or what's in their head or how hard it is and all that kind of stuff, So, yeah, it's cool watching you go down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's just if you just look at the dots, it feels really abstract, and I feel it's important when you start being in the front and you spend a lot of time in the front. I mean, people and you start having a lot of following. People just want to know what's happening in the race. How you feel. Is it hard? Is it okay? Are you having fun? Are you getting rained on? Are you just pouring sweat and I like it. I like to take a little bit of time to share with the dot watchers and just tell them what's happening out there, and usually I'm having fun, and that's I like to share that with the dot watchers and everyone that follows me. Just tell them that I'm having a blast, and it's what I like to do. It's being out there on my bike, and that's the reason why I do it.
Yeah, I was curious, like, about your Instagram. One, as a fan, I really appreciate it. You're hilarious. But I mean, you wear your heart on your sleeve. Like, you'll get the funny sleep monster monologue that you just did that cracked me up. You get the singing, but you also, like, you wear your heart on your sleeve and you tell people, if you're having a good day or a bad day or whatever. And one, as a fan, I'm like stoked. I love, you're my favorite person to watch on Instagram as the dots are going along. I mean, it's
Thanks,
so
man.
entertaining. No, I mean that. I look forward to it. You're like, you're quite entertaining. I mean, you're a really neat guy. You're interesting. You're really good at what you do. And so getting a look inside of what is actually happening is pretty incredible. But my question is, like, do you ever worry about giving away too much information to, like, your competitors, Because if you're in the lead, I don't know, do you ever worry about that?
Sometimes I do, yeah. I usually think about it really carefully before I do a recap of my day, before I tell the dot watchers what's happening. I'm like, okay, this is the kind of information that I'm gonna give away. Uh, what's gonna happen if that information gets to the competition? How can they use it? Like, for example, on the Three Peaks, I had a really hard time one night, and I started getting injured, and my Achilles were killing me, and my left knee started to hurt as well, and I thought of quitting, and I thought, okay, will I share this with the dot watchers and my followers, and if I share this, what can be the outcome, and yeah, it's a sport of strategy. It's a sport also where the mental aspect is really important. And sometimes when you know that the competition is hurting, it can help you. It can boost your morale, and you need to be like, okay, I get this. The guy behind is hurting, and I feel well. So yeah, I take this in consideration, and then I'm like, okay, should I share this? And if I feel like it's okay for me to share it, like, I will. And some of the other information I may not. I may not tell the people that, I don't know, my feet are bothering me or stuff like that. Like, it really.
So it's strategic. You think about it.
Yeah, I do think about it, and it's really just a matter of where I am, where the competition is, and how they could eventually use the information that I'm giving to the public.
Well, let's talk about your Three Peaks, because that's actually, specifically because on the Three Peaks is when you did share that you were thinking about quitting. And that's whenever it kind of came on my radar, like, I wonder if he should be talking about that, on Instagram. And so that's actually why I asked the question. So what was going on and why did you share that?
So what was going on, actually? I mean, it's rare that I really think of quitting, because that's not why we do events. We do events to cross the finish line, whatever it takes. But yeah, I mean, the Three Peaks came exactly a month after I finished the Hope 1000, and the Hope 1000 is brutal race. It's a short one, but it has like 3% average gradient climbing. I mean, you pretty much spend all your time climbing, in Switzerland, and the gradients are just like 10 to 12%, and the going is extremely slow, and it takes a lot of time to recover from this. And a month was definitely not enough, where I had to take a long period of rest after the Hope 1000, and I wanted to get back in shape probably like 10 days before the Three Peaks, but I got a bit sick at that time and I couldn't train. And basically, the only training that I got for the Three Peaks was just 3 days of riding to the start. I just took a train to the German border, then I rode across Germany to the Austrian border, and then I was on a train to Vienna. And basically, my training was like 500K, which is like 300 miles or 250 miles of just riding to the start. And then the race started, and there was like two really really great competitors that were there, which was Bjorn Leonard, which is well known for his, a number of TCR podium finishes, and Ulrich Barthelmus, who won 3 bikepacking races last year. And I knew that I had to start and give it, all I got as soon as it started, and that the first day would be crucial. And yeah, despite the lack of training, I gave it all I got, and I pushed really hard on the pedals, and also I did a mistake choosing my gearing. Well, my lowest gear was 36, 32, which is probably okay if you're going for 1,000K or 600 miles in a country other than Switzerland. But Switzerland has just crazy gradients, and at some point after Switzerland, when I crossed the border, got to France, just my Achilles were fucked, and I knew that it was a problem. It's one thing to finish a race like with your legs completely fucked up. I mean, we've all been there. But my problem was that I knew that I only had 10 days between the Three Peaks and the French Divide. And I really, really, really wanted to do the French Divide. And when it started to hurt real bad, I was like, okay, I probably can finish this race, the Three Peaks, but maybe I might just finish it in such a bad shape that I'm going to have to, bail on the French Divide, and that would really suck. So this is why I was considering quitting. I was not considering quitting because I was hurting. I was considering quitting because I was putting the rest of my season in jeopardy, and it's not something that I wanted to do. And yeah, I felt okay talking about it because I was like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, the information can filter to the lead, and sometimes what happens is that you're in the lead, you hear that the guy behind you is hurting, and you feel a bit less pressure, and you slow down a little bit. I mean, that's what I thought. So I was like, okay, I don't think this kind of information can hurt me, and this is why I actually chose to release it to my followers.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, like following along, because you posted something along the lines of I'm thinking about quitting. I don't remember exactly. And then later on in your stories, you clarified or mentioned that this is what you were grappling with. I mean, you just came off of the Hope 1000. You went into Three Peaks, not 100% already, and you really wanted to do well on the French Divide. So it was just a matter of managing your body and what you wanted to accomplish, right? I mean, you had a big goal on the French Divide, which we're obviously going to get into. And so, as a fan, I'm like, oh, I don't know what you should do.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, it was neat, just as a fan to be watching and to understand what you were, grappling with, the things that were going through in your head. I don't know. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, and I mean, I had some followers giving me advice. Some were telling me, well, you shouldn't put the rest of your season and the French Divide in jeopardy. If you feel like you're hurting too much, you should probably quit and just rest, and then get to this French Divide, which is more like your kind of racing, because it's off road and because it's hard, and you're gonna need all that grit, and this is the kind of races where you shine more than the road tarmac aspect of bike packing, which is not what you're accustomed to and not where you usually have the most fun. So you probably should, bail on the Three Peaks to save your chances of to shine on the French Divide. And I kind of understood what they were saying, and then I was like, okay, but maybe there's something that I can try. Maybe I can just stop pushing like a madman, and the fact that I was out of Switzerland and that I was in France, and the gradients there in France are usually more forgiving than the ones in Switzerland. So with my gearing, there was still a possibility that I could kind of recover from the injury that I suffered in Switzerland, and just take it a bit easier, get more sleep, be a little slower, and just finish and try to hang on to that second place. Just try to keep Bjorn Leonard at bay. And I mean, I usually don't show up on races to finish second, but it's better to finish second than not to finish. And it's still a good result, when you look at what the winner did, Ulrich Barthelmos. He posted just an incredible time.
Yeah,
and
he really did.
He did, and there's no shame in losing to such a great athlete and such a great performance. And I was like, okay. I mean, when I thought I was in too much pain to keep the space. I was like, okay, I'm gonna let him go, and I'm just gonna try and finish as fast as I can while trying to recover from the injuries that I suffered in Switzerland.
Before we get to the French Divide, let's just go through your 2020 race season real quick. And you might have to help me, but did you started the year at Atlas?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Was that your first?
Yeah.
Okay. So you started at Atlas, got first place, 3 days, 21 hours. Obviously, that's the fastest time because it was the first year. And you had Mr. Hayden in second place. That gave you a pretty good run there.
Yeah, he did.
Can you just, I'm curious. I had him on the podcast not too long ago. He's a really sharp guy and obviously a really fast guy. Y'all shared joint first at the 2019 Italy Divide. I'm just curious, do you consider him your biggest competition, or who do you see as your biggest competition?
But I raced against James twice, and so obviously once we finished together, and the second time I was lucky enough that I finished ahead of him, but he was really on my tail. I mean, he finished really strong, where I kind of faded towards the finish, and at some point I think I opened up a 5-hour gap, and towards the end it was only 2 hours. So I mean, James is a great guy, and I consider him a friend, but it's probably I would say my number one competition. I would say.
Yeah, it's going to be, as a fan, he just graduated. And so now he's able to, train full time, and he's really going to give it a go. So I think, the races coming up are going to be really, fun. And I have to assume, I mean, you want to be the best, right? So you can only be the best if you beat the best, and you need people who are pushing you and competing. And so I can't imagine that this bothers you. I mean, how do you view it? Just as a competition?
What's happening to this sport is absolutely amazing. I mean, as I was telling a friend not too long ago, when I first came to this sport in 2016 on the Tour Divide, basically what I did and what we did with Kevin Jacobson, we were tied for third place in 2016 behind the late Mike Hall and single speeder legend Chris Plesko. And basically what we did in 2016, we just kept trucking. The thing we did was just keep moving as long as we could, just stay consistent, And this would, at that time, 4 years ago, you would secure a podium finish if you just, keep moving. This is no longer the case. Now the competition is fierce. There's more and more people doing this. Better people. They're better trained. They have better knowledge of the sport, of the endurance, of the ultra. And now if you just keep moving, that's not enough. You might secure a top 10, but you're never going to secure a top 10, a top 3, a podium finish. So the sport is evolving real fast, and like if you look at what I did on the Atlas Mtn Race, I was like, I think I kind of had it figured out that okay, if I just don't sleep, keep my time off the bike to a minimum, then yeah, I should be able to win any race. And then I showed up on the Hope 1000, and I got my ass kicked. I I barely slept. I slept less than on the Atlas Mtn Race, and I tried to keep my time off the bike to a minimum. And yet, yeah, I still finished 2 hours behind the winner, Jochen Breuninger. So yeah, the sport is moving, and if you look at for example the Silk Road Mountain Race last year, total stranger, Jakub Sliakan, nobody had ever heard of him, and the guy comes to the Silk Road, he finishes ahead of Lowell Cox, JP, James Hayden. Well, obviously James Hayden had some troubles, so we never know what could have happened if James didn't run into troubles. But still, I mean, fairly impressive that you never heard of just finishes ahead of just legends of the sport. So yeah, I think the sport is evolving real fast, and you can't really rely on whatever you have, developed over the years. You need to keep evolving with the sport. You need to find new ways of being faster, of maybe, I mean, I was going to say to sleep less, but let's be honest, I can't do that. But
well,
yeah,
we're going to talk more about sleep. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, but it's great. It's great to know that you have to be on your toes all the time. I mean, you can show up on a race and you look at the roster and you don't know anyone, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that in these guys that you don't know, there might be someone that is gonna, give you a run for your money. It's gonna be there. It's just like what happened on the French Divide, and what happened on the Hope 1000, and just yeah, and even if you look at the Three Peaks, what Ulrich did, I think sleeping just this amount, which was really really little, very little amount of sleep, and being this fast, I don't think it has ever been done before. So yeah, I mean, everyone has to step up. Everyone has to look at what everyone else is doing and be like, okay, the game now is changing, and if anyone wants to stay on top, I think we're gonna have to work hard, really, really hard to keep doing what we do and being at the top of the sport.
How do you see it evolving? So I mean, just you compare 2016 to 2020. That's 4 years, and the amount of competition, the level of competition is so much greater than it was just 4 years ago. But yet, we're pushing the limits of, God, you have to be pushing the limits of sleep or lack of sleep, speed. Do you have any inclination on where we'll be at in 4 years from now, or how the race can continue to evolve?
I'm thinking that in 4 years, what we're gonna see is on the shorter races like the Atlas or Three Peaks or the Hope 1000, the races that last around 4 days. We're gonna see pretty much all the guys that finish in the top 3 or top 5 or even top 10 very little sleep, very, very little sleep. And then winning is going to mean both sleeping very little, taking very little time off the saddle, and being super fast. I mean, this is the way that I see it. That, I mean, so many people are coming to the sport, and the more people you have, and the more strong people you have, it's just a simple number game. But yeah, if I believe what's happening right now, and if you look at performances like the one that Rollish showcased, or even the winner of the Hope 1000, Jochen, yeah, just not sleeping and not taking time off the bike is not going to be enough. You're going to have to be fast as well.
Yeah. What about like equipment choices? I mean, I assume, manufacturers are going to continue to obviously improve. Bike packing is continuing to grow as a sport, which means money's going to be thrown at it. I'm assuming, I don't know what they are, but I'm assuming as we go on, gear choices, lighter bikes, better tires, whatever it may be. Do you think that'll have a factor as well, or do you think it's more about the people that are pushing it?
What I'm thinking is if you take two athletes that are equal or really close, then the bike can make a bit of a difference. But I still believe that in this sport, the sport of bike packing, the gear and the bike will not be a determining factor. Because it's just such long races. I mean, maybe in 20 years, the gaps between the competition will be so little that even the bike will be important. But where we are now and where we will be in a few years, I don't think that the bikes and the gear will matter that much.
Yeah. All right. So how did the pandemic and COVID and everything impact you? Obviously, you start off the year really good at Atlas Mountain, and then we got hit with the pandemic. Yeah, it's kind of been a crazy year, but obviously it messed up your plans. Did it impact your training? Like, what did you do to stay sharp and keep at it while you were locked down?
Yeah, well, it had obviously a big influence on my season and on my training. So what happened in France is that they actually banned recreative cycling. So there was no way that you could actually train outside. And I'm not the kind of guy that is going to train on a trainer. I don't ride my bike inside. Riding a bike for me is the purpose of riding a bike is to be outside. So
Amen. You're
yeah,
my kind of rider.
Yeah, I'm not gonna just pedal in my garage.
I can't do it. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously. So yeah, it had a big impact on my training. I mean, to be honest, I would still sneak out sometimes to ride my bike a little bit and try to not get caught by the police. But it's just not the same. You can't really have the same training when you have to sneak out or go out for overnighters and yeah. I mean, the first part of the problem was the training, and then the second part was just that all of the races that I signed up for were canceled or postponed. My big goal for 2020 was obviously coming back on the Tour de Valais and try to set the new record. And didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it sure
I think
is.
it would have been a really good Tour de Valais year. I have a feeling, I think it would have been a really good field.
If it happens in 2021, it's going to be huge. I mean, I'm hearing names. Yeah, I'm hearing names that, I mean, I like to hear. I mean, it could be, 2021 could be the biggest Tour de Valais in history. It can be, you could have, last year we had just a who's who of riders showing up. And next year it could be even bigger.
I can't wait. You're getting me giddy.
Yeah.
How much time so your first race back in 2020 was the Hope 1000?
Yeah. So yeah, I after the Atlas
let me ask you
race.
this question real quick. How much time between when they relieved the ban on recreation cycling, how much time did you have to train before, like that race was, I think, June 20th. So do you know how much time you had to actually train for that race?
40 days.
48?
40 days.
40 days.
40
Is that
days,
pretty
yeah.
good? Like how were you feeling going into that race? Was that a good enough training block, or did you go in,
Yeah,
not quite?
I was not 100%. I mean, it's just staying so long off the bike and then having 40 days to get back to your race shape. It's just, I mean, what I did before the Atlas Mtn Race and what I did before the Hope 1000 is just completely different training. And I know that I showed up on the Atlas Mtn Race way sharper than on the Hope 1000.
Yeah. Well, you're a freaking animal, dude. I'm just picturing you in Paris in a lockdown. Now, I didn't know you couldn't ride your bike. Now I know you couldn't ride your bike for a considerable amount of time. And you just went on a tear. And for anyone who doesn't know, you did the Hope 1000 June 20th, then July 10th, less than a month later, Three Peaks. And then like a month to the day after that, the French Divide. Is it so? I mean, it was like you were stir crazy and you were going to race everything you get your hands on. Was that kind of what was your approach?
What happened is so we were locked down. COVID happened. Every races were canceled one after the other or postponed. And for about a couple months, we had no idea what was going to happen, and the first race that I heard of that was going to be held was the Hope 1000. I was like, this is my chance. I mean, I had a whole schedule of races that I had worked on after the Atlas Mtn Race and a whole bunch of events that I wanted to do, and I ended up doing nothing. And there was the Hope 1000. It was the first race that actually happened after the lockdown. It's the first one. And I was like, okay, it's the first. I'm going to do it. I don't care. I mean, I don't even know what this is. I'm just going to go there. I mean, I was not even sure that the border was going to be open. I mean, I had to cross a border to get the Swiss border. But I mean, I wrote to the organizer and was like, I want to do this. I mean, there are talks that the border is going to open on June 15th. And if it's the case, then I can show up. So if you can get me a spot, I'll take a spot. And yeah, and then I was like, okay, any race that I can do, I'm going to do it. And I signed up for these 3 races because I was like, I'd rather race too much than too little. I mean, for so long, I was afraid that my season was going to, be just the Atlas Mtn Race, that when the opportunities presented themselves, I was like, yeah, I mean, you have to do it. And I mean, I love to do it. Let's be honest. I love to
love
show
this
up.
shit.
Yeah, just love to show up and compete. I mean, it's what I do, and I feel so good when I do it. So I was like, okay, it's. I knew it was too much. I knew that there was no way that I would be able to perform 100% on 3 races in 2 months. It's impossible. But I was like, I'd rather do it than just be reasonable and do one race. I don't want to choose.
Well, why not? I mean, it's an opportunity to get out, ride your bike, race, and also, I mean, you're kind of learning. I have to assume this is the furthest you've ever pushed yourself in a short amount of time to do these 3 big races in a short amount of time, not going in trained 100%, not having, the ability to recover 100% and train for the next one. I mean, it's really it's a big challenge that you took on. So I have to think that, yeah, maybe you weren't 100%, but you still learn about yourself. You learn about what you're capable of when you're not at 100%, right? So
Exactly.
I can't imagine it being other thing. Go ahead.
That's a real interesting thing to do. I mean, we know so little about this sport. We know so little about the athletes and the way that the bodies of the athlete can actually endure these efforts and the sleep deprivation. and the 20 hours on the saddle every day and stuff like that. I mean, it's just so new that there's still a ton of stuff that we need to learn. And part of learning that comes from just experimenting. And I was like, okay, I have no idea how I'm going to perform, but I mean, I don't care. Nobody, if I do it, like if I do the whole 1000, then a month later the three peaks, and then 10 days later the French Divide, and if I just can't, perform on the French Divide, who's going to say anything? Who's going to? Yeah, nobody's going to be stunned. People will be like, yeah, well, I'm not really surprised that he can't do anything on the French Divide. He just came out of 2 races. So it's like,
but if you do those 2 races and then you come and get first place and set a course record after that, then it makes you a badass.
That's pretty badass, yeah. So I was not even that brave, because I just only had, I could only win. I mean, there was no pressure for me, and if I didn't do well, then it was okay, and if I did well, then it was just great. So
let's talk about the French Divide. How were you feeling going into at the starting line? How were you feeling coming off the 3 peaks? And yeah, what were your expectations, goals, all that kind of stuff?
Well, the first day of the French Divide, I knew that I would have to pretty much race the whole race with just my head, because my legs weren't there. Just the legs. I mean, usually when it's the start of a race, when you get that first climb, first steep climb, and there's a 2, 3, 4 guys that I'm riding with, I just I'm ahead. I'm ahead, and they never catch me afterwards. And yeah, first day of the French Divide, they were just hanging on because I had nothing. I mean, my legs were gone. So yeah, first day of the French Divide, I was like, okay, this race, if I do good, it's not going to be with the legs, it's going to be with the head. And it was really hard from the beginning, because it was terribly hot. We had a heat wave in France at that time. I mean, it started like the day before the race. The race started on a Sunday for me, and the Saturday was the beginning of the heat wave. It was like 100 degrees, and it was just killing me. I mean, I'm not good with the heat, and yeah. First off, I was really fatigued from 3 peaks, and yeah, then with the heat, it was even worse. So I can't say I had a really good first day. I mean, at some point, I remember stopping. I mean, you probably have seen the story on Instagram where I stopped in a cemetery, and yeah, I was just pouring water all over my face and trying to get the temperature of my body down a little bit, just to be able to function. At some point when the temperature of your body rises too much, you just stop functioning. There's nothing you can do. And yeah, I mean, the first 4 days.
Were you concerned on day one? Well, I guess you said you didn't have a lot of pressure, but I mean, still, you want to do well. Were you concerned about your ability to perform and to finish, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was very concerned about the heat, because I've suffered from the heat before on a race, and I know that it can just, if you have that heat stroke, you're just gonna stop for 12 hours. It's just gonna take 12 hours of your time, and then you're gonna have another 6 hours where you're gonna be able to ride, but it's gonna just take you 6 hours to get back to some sort of shape where you can actually ride at a decent pace. So I was really concerned about the heat, and I tried to drink as much as possible. And the first 4 days of the race, which were the days of the heat wave, for me was just about surviving. I mean, at that time, I was not trying to do well. I was just trying to, be consistent and just survive and see what would happen. But it was really hard. I mean, day one, yeah, I had probably 2 to 4 hours where I just couldn't do anything. I mean, I would still pedal, but my pace was really, really slow. And then day 2 was about the cramps. I had cramps, a lot of cramps on day two. Just a hard time keeping the fluids and the salts in my body, and just being really depleted from the heat. Day three was a little bit better. It was cloudy, but I mean, still I had a very conservative pace. And day four was terrible. I mean, at some point, I remember this climb. It was like almost 100 degrees, no shade at all. The heat of the day, I mean, it was probably 2 p.m. and I had a tailwind. And that tailwind is terrible, because the little, movement, the little wind that you create when you're cycling, and that helps helps cool your body down with the sweat. Then it's just canceled by the tailwind. It's like you were just
Oh,
yeah, it's like you're just standing there. It's
it
like if
makes
it's
sense. Yeah.
yeah, if it's
The wind
like
you're creating is being canceled by the wind that's pushing you.
exactly, and it's like it's like you're just standing there and it was a paved climb, and so it was like standing there on tarmac, straight in the sun during the heat wave. And I felt, I mean, that climb, I felt, no, this is not good. Something is happening that I'm not going to be happy with. And then the next village, I spotted a fountain, and I stopped there. There was a little bit of shade, and I just sat there, started pouring water all over my face, and then on my jersey, and then drinking lots. And I was still felt extremely weak, and I decided to take a nap. And I napped for probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes. And just, yeah, the goal was just trying to again, take the body temperature down as much as possible. And then also, get lots of fluid. And I had some uh, little salt tablets that were really important when it's really really hot and you sweat a lot. With the sweat, you get rid of a lot of salt, sodium, magnesium, stuff like that you absolutely need to replace in your body. Because if you just drink the water and you don't
You will
get,
die.
yeah, you're still going to be depleted because you don't have the sodium, the magnesium, and all these minerals that you need. So
Well, you can literally die if you don't replenish that. I can't remember what that's called, but I know a guy who died because he was just drinking water, not on a bike. He was actually doing this crazy canoe trip in Texas where it's hot as fuck, and he
I
was
mean,
just drinking water.
exerting yourself in 100 degrees heat is no joke. It's absolutely no joke. You can most certainly
No.
die if you're not
Yes.
careful. I mean, we had on the race someone that ended up in the hospital with kidney failure. It's
Oh
just no,
man.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just no joke. It's a it's really dangerous conditions. You have to be extremely careful, and you have to be organized, and you have to be concerned every minute that you're out there during this day. And you have to have your salt tablets and lots of fluid. And yeah, and that fourth day, which was the last of the dog days, yeah, that moment after that paved climb, I was in distress, man. I was in real distress, and I mean, I
Do you
stopped. I
think
mean,
do you think it's your experience that allowed you to like keep going? I mean, obviously you were aware of, what your body was going through and you were trying to give it what it needed while still racing. I mean, everybody else is dealing with the same stuff. So do you think, I don't know, maybe your experience and your ability to like think through that kind of helped?
yeah, it's definitely an experience stuff, because I did that mistake before in a race of pushing myself way too hard when it was really hot, and not listening to my body when it was telling me, dude, you need to slow down. And I ended up, spending 12 hours in a hotel room trying to sleep, not being able to sleep, drinking tons of water, and as soon as I would drink it, I would go to the toilet and just, you know, piss whatever amount of water that I drank, and it would just go through my body without doing anything, because It
Whoa.
was not a matter of the water. My body needed the minerals, the sodium, the magnesium, and all the other minerals that it needs to function. And at the same time, I was just nauseous and I couldn't eat. And so I knew that the heat was something that was really serious, something that you should not take lightly. And I was like, okay, now I feel that things are not good. I don't like to stop, I don't like to stop for 15, 20, 30 minutes. This is not something that I like to do. But then I was like, okay, what's better, to stop for 30 minutes or to stop for 12 hours? Because now, if I don't stop now, if I don't get the temperature of my body, if I don't get it down now, if I don't replenish my minerals and my fluids, and if I don't rest a little bit, then I'm not gonna stop for 30 minutes. I'm just gonna collapse, and I'm gonna have to stop for 12 hours. So
And
that's
where were
definitely.
you at this point in the race? I mean, you're leading. How much of a gap do you have, or where were you at exactly? Do you remember?
I was in second place, and I was trying to catch the first guy, the first Belgian guy leaving.
And
And
what kind of
so
gap did he have on you?
he had, like, I would say, probably 2 hours.
It's not a ton, but you have somebody that, if you stop for 30 minutes is going to gain 30 minutes on you that you got to make up an hour.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the kind of pressure that you have in these races, and especially me, where I like to be ahead. I don't like. I mean, if you have like guys like Josh Cato, he likes to be chasing, where I'd rather be chased. I'd rather be in the lead, and I don't really like to chase. So I felt that pressure of not stopping, but still I was like, okay, I don't like to stop, but now is the time where I have to.
Yeah. Okay. So how did it go from there?
Yeah, then the next day was okay. The next day, the temperature dropped, and I was able to function properly. I mean, if there's one thing that's cool with my body is that I have the ability to recover quickly,
Yeah, that's
whatever
amazing.
happens. Yeah. So whatever happens, I mean, some people, if you get into that the stress from the heat, and the the temperature of your body rises too much, then you're gonna be fucked for, I don't know, 6, 12, whatever hours.
Yeah, everybody's different. You're right. I mean, everybody's
Yeah,
different. So
exactly. But I have the ability to recover quickly. So yeah, the next days were definitely way better. I mean, when the heat wave was over, I mean, I was just happy that I had survived. I mean, I knew that it was going to be terrible for 4 days, and I knew that I was going to be concerned for 4 days because I don't do well with the heat. And yeah, I was just happy that this was over, and that the rest of the race would have better temperatures.
So how did it go? How was, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, is 8 days, 9 hours and 41 minutes was your time. So this was a longer race, the other ones being, 3-4 day races or
Yeah.
closer to 4 day races. Yeah. So there's still a lot of race left. So how did the rest go?
It was I mean, the heat still does stuff to your body that you're gonna have to deal with afterwards. And then we had storms at night. So basically, it was like too hot during the day and then too wet during the night. And yeah, and the storms will slow me down as well. I really like to take care of my feet, because I've had experiences in past races where I just completely destroyed my feet by cycling with wet feet.
Yeah.
And I don't like to have wet feet for too long, because I know that it's gonna be a problem. So whenever there's storms, whenever I get my feet wet, then it slows me down, because as soon as I can, I stop, and I change socks, and I put some baby powder in there, and try to get as much humidity as possible out of the shoes. And it's a lengthy process, just taking care of your feet, and since sometimes you have to just air them out and make sure that they dry, And so, I mean, the beginning of the race, we had really adverse and slow conditions, losing probably an hour and a half every day to the heat, and then losing probably another hour to just I mean, for me at least, losing another hour just to make sure that I would not destroy my feet by cycling with wet shoes.
Would you do you take advantage of that time if you're airing out? Do you take a nap and or do do you maximize that time?
Well, it depends of the time of the day. I did take a nap in the morning. I think it was the day three, day 3 or 4. I mean, obviously, it's hard to keep track of the days, and it's always confusing after these races when you don't sleep much.
Yeah, I can
But
imagine.
yeah, but
I'm impressed your recollection is as good as it is, considering.
but yeah, I remember taking a nap uh, in the morning, so it was starting. The sun was out, and since it was still the dog days, it was pretty hot. Even though it was early morning, and yeah, just took my shoes off, took my socks off, and just slept for about 10-15 minutes, and yeah, allowed my feet to dry a little bit. And it was fun because there was a house there, and when I woke up, I noticed that the lady that lived in the house was actually there, and she looked a little bit worried. So I showed that, yeah, I was still alive and I was not in a coma on the side of the road. And then she,
that's funny.
yeah, and then she offered me coffee, and we shared a cup of coffee, and we talked a little bit, and that's one thing that was amazing about this race is how nice the people are, and it's something
Right,
that
you
I have to
posted a
say.
lot of, yeah.
To be honest, I was really not aware that the French were so nice. I live there, by the way. I mean, in the part where I live, which is called Paris, they are not that nice. Definitely
Yeah.
not. But then, yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably like the U.S. when you're in New York or
Yep.
in Los Angeles,
Yep.
and nobody cares about you. And then as soon as you get inside the country, I mean, in the flyover states and stuff like that, then wow, people are just so friendly there. So it's a little bit like that in France as well, where people were extremely friendly all the time, and I remember, yeah, I mean that same day where I had this kind of distress where I was sitting near that fountain in this little village. A little bit afterwards, I came into another tiny village, and there was this woman that she was going home, and I was riding with another guy called Fabien, and she saw us, and she was like, "Hey, do you want me to hose you down?" And we were like, "Yeah, sure, let's do that." And yeah, we just went into her garden, and she took out the hose, and she sprayed us with the cold water, and it was the best, man. It was really
Oh
the
my
best.
gosh.
It was 100 degrees out there, and we had the cold water, and she filled up our bottles, and then we were on our way, and for about an hour we felt so great because the clothes were wet and the wind we were creating by cycling. It
Right.
kept us cool, and so yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of real nice people out there that
Well, that's good to
really,
hear. You just got to get outside of Paris and you'll run into and it is like that in Texas too. I mean, get outside of the big cities and, people are a lot more friendly.
yeah.
At some point during the race, I mean, you went into it without, I mean, obviously wanting to do your best, but not knowing how you would perform. You went on to set the course record, so I have to assume, like at some point, did you regain your strength and you started feeling really good, and did your mindset change, or what was your strategy like halfway through the race?
So basically, what happened is that day one, I was not real in race mode. It's the north of France, and people are probably not aware of that. But the north of France is the place in France where the people are the most warm and welcoming. So when you start the race, there's people everywhere, and I had friends coming over to cycle with me a little bit, and I had just dot watchers everywhere, and obviously, I mean, if I see a friend, I'm going to stop and I'm going to say hi. It's a race, but it's still friends. So yeah, day one, I was not really willing to get into race mode. I was just out there. I mean, I had no idea I would be able to perform. I just wanted to take it easy. I was riding with the guy called Antoine, and it was a cool dude, and we were chatting. And whenever I would see a friend, I would stop and chat a little bit. And so it took actually probably 2 to 3 days for me to get really into race mode. Where that state of mind where I just don't stop. I just every time where I'm off the bike, there's this. I hear this clock ticking. It took me a little time to get there, and I had I knew the times of the record at the checkpoints. So when I showed up at the first checkpoint, I was like, oh yeah, okay. So I was not really in race mode, but I'm still 2 hours back. So it's means that I probably still had a good day. And then I showed up at the second checkpoint, and I was only an hour back. For it. So I was like, okay, so I can still do it. I mean, I knew that it was not about the legs, definitely, but I came to this race with the will to try out a new sleep strategy. So even though I was not in race mode, and even though I was not sure what I was doing, I was like, okay, so any race is always a testing ground, and my strategy for this race was to sleep every other night. And yeah, I think the
Was
doing
that well, I did the math. You slept, well, you said on Instagram you slept 17 hours, which comes out to about 2 hours per day. So were you sleeping 4 hours every other day?
Yeah,
Or
that's what I was trying to do actually. My strategy was to try and get a hotel every other night and then sleep for 4 hours. And whenever I was not in a hotel, just do power naps every time that I felt that I was falling asleep on the bike. So that was my
interesting.
strategy.
Okay.
And just by implementing this strategy, and by still being consistent, and having this discipline of never sitting down for a meal, never stopping for nonsense, and just by doing that, I managed to stay. I'm pretty much for all the race, I was either an hour back or an hour ahead of the record. And then when I got to mid race, and I was an hour ahead of the record, I was like, okay, this is 4 days of racing now. I mean, I'm tired, but by that time, everyone is as tired as I am. Nobody's fresher than I am. I mean, whatever happened during these 4 days, we're all, at this level of fatigue, that it doesn't matter that I only had 10 days to recover, because I mean, now with whatever the amount of races we have covered, just everybody's tired. And whether it was the Leven that was chasing me, or whether it was just the guy that bit the record the previous year, I knew that now it would be just a matter of not sleeping and being consistent, and not stopping too much. And that's. I mean, I kept the record in my head, and I would get splits from friends. I would tell them, "Oh, do you know when he was there, what time he was there, and how long did it take him to cover the track from here to there?" And
what was the previous record?
the previous record was actually like 40 minutes more than what I did. I mean,
Okay,
I
so it's
set a
really
new record,
close.
but it's not even for an hour.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm guessing that there's some improvement to be made on that. You could come in fresher. It could not be as hot, and you could probably see some faster times, I would assume.
Yeah, I really love this race, and I'm thinking of coming back already. And there's two things that I want to do with this race. I want to do it like chill and see everything, and spend time with the people that are on the side of the road, and when there's nice dot watchers that are out there, spend 15 minutes with them instead of just 5 minutes, and some of the nice scenery that I missed because I cycled all night long, that I want to see it. So this is one thing that I want to do, and the other thing that I want to do is just sub 8. I think that is doable. I think that it's going to be really hard, but I think that this course, I can race it under 8 days.
Yeah, well, that'll be exciting to watch. Let's talk about your sleeping, because that's one of the biggest areas where you seem to do very well, is by just going, not sleeping, not stopping. Is this something that you're just like naturally good at, or have you? I mean, I know you just talked about a different sleep strategy. So, how has the evolution of your sleep kind of come to where you are now?
I started with it, as soon as I started racing, 2016, my first Tour Divide. Some people are very consistent with their sleep. They're gonna stop every night, sleep for 4 hours. And I was not like that. I mean, from the beginning, it was like, okay, I feel good. I'm not gonna stop. I don't feel sleepy. I'm gonna keep going. And at first, in the beginning, when you do it, the next day is just terrible. I remember my first sleepless night on the Tour Divide. The next day, everyone that I passed during the night, the next day they passed me because I was so slow. I just couldn't focus, and I was falling asleep on the bike, and I thought that everything was way too hard. And then you learn, and your body and your brain, they get accustomed to this sleep deprivation, and the more you push it, and the more you do it, and they're like, it's like your brain remembers. It's like, oh yeah, so now is the time we're not sleeping. Yeah, we can do that. I remember how we do it, and you do it once, and then you do it again, and now I'm up to the point where if I go sleepless for one night, if I go on an overnighter, I don't feel sleepy at all for the full night. For me, it's just, yeah, I just ride, and then the next day, it's okay, I ride, and it's gonna be challenging. The second sleepless night is gonna be challenging, but the first one, this it's just a formality for me. Now I'm up to that point where I've done it so much that it's just yeah, it's nothing. And yeah, now it's just a matter of trying to see how far I can push, and trying to see what exactly is optimal, because what's obviously when you ride all night and somebody stops for 4 hours, you're not going to be 4 hours faster than you is, because everyone is slower at night. There's no way around it. Riding at night, you're going to be slower. So you ride for 4 hours more, but you're probably going to be 3 hours faster, because whatever the distance you covered between these 4 hours is probably going to take 3 hours to the guys that slept to cover it.
Yeah, makes
But
sense.
it's just sometimes a matter of making your calculation and being like, okay, should I sleep 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours? What will be the most effective thing to do? Like, for example, there was one night where I planned to not sleep, and then it started raining, and then it's like, okay, if I ride all night in the rain, am I going to be effective? Is it smarter to ride all night in the rain, or to grab 2 hours of sleep, and then you spend at least 2 hours where you're dry, and there's a good chance that when the sun comes up, the rain is going to stop, and then you're probably going to be more effective by riding on the dry and in the daylight. So it's not always about, yeah, if I keep riding all night and the guy behind me stops for 4 hours, then I'm going to be 4 hours faster. No, it's not. That's not how it works. You have sometimes to kind of, you know, be smart and be like, okay, maybe now is the time to sleep. Maybe I'm going to be faster by sleeping. And also, it's just, even if I'm ahead of a lot of people on the sleep deprivation stuff, I'm still learning, and this is why I was eager to race that race and try that strategy of sleeping every other night. And I have ideas of what I could do on the Tour de Vade and what kind of strategy I can have, and I mean it's the problem with the sport and why it's so challenging. It's because you can't uh, reproduce the conditions of the race in training. Nobody can train by riding for 4 days straight. It's just impossible to do that. If you're not in the context of a race, you're not going to ride for, I don't know, 60, 72 hours straight without sleep, because it's just you need the adrenaline
you need that carrot.
of the context of the race.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is, basically sleep is just another tool in your arsenal, and you're learning how to, utilize it to the best ability. And situations are always going to be different. Races are always going to be different. It could rain or whatever. It could be hot. And so, what it sounds like is you're just really learning your body, learning how you perform with sleep, without sleep, how far you can go, and just trying to optimize that part of your whole strategy when it comes to going into these races. And then also being able to be adaptive during the race, as situations change.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people will tell you, well, Sophiane, his strength is lack of sleep, sleep deprivation. And I will tell you, well, my weakness is sleep. And what do I mean by that? Is that if you put me outside in the ditch, and I haven't slept for 60 hours, I'm not gonna rest. I'm not gonna get a good sleep, even though I'm exhausted. If I'm outside, if I'm bivvying, I'm not gonna get a good rest. So this is one of my weaknesses. If you get people like Josh Cato is gonna bivvy every night and is gonna get a good sleep and is gonna get a fresh start in the morning. And I can't do that, so I have to adapt. I have to find ways. Like if you look at the Tour de Vade last year, I go on this 60-hour stint from Banff to Atlanta, like 600 miles nonstop. Get a hotel, then I get another hotel in Wise River, and then that next night I make it close to Island Park, next to the right before the rail trail, and I bivvy in this old tunnel, and I didn't get a good rest. I didn't get a good sleep. I mean, I was still fatigued. I was still exhausted from being 5 days in the race, but I barely slept, and I counted that as a mistake. Like, you should sleep only when you can sleep. I mean, if you lay for 3 hours, 4 hours in your sleeping bag and you don't get a good rest, then you've made a mistake. It means that you probably should have stayed in your sleeping bag for an hour instead of 4. So
That's such an interesting way to look at it.
yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of working with your strength and your weaknesses. It's just matter of knowing what you can do and what you can't do. And once you know that, just trying to adapt and be like, okay, now I can't find a hotel. I can't find or if it's not a hotel, just some kind of shelter. Even a camping bathroom would be good. But if I can't find four walls and a roof, then what am I gonna do? Am I gonna stop for 4 hours, or am I gonna stop for an hour, or just for 15 minutes? It's just trying to evolve and be like, okay. And this is why I was really happy to try that on the French Divide, because I was like, okay, this is a long race. What you learn on a 4 days race is different from what you learn on the race that lasts for 8 to 9 days.
Yeah, big time. What's next for you? Do you already are you already signed up for a race? What do you got next?
I wish I knew. I mean, it's probably not going to be until October. I mean, I have a couple friends that organize a race in Belgium, and they badly want me to go there. But I mean, I've raced 3 races in 2 months. So
You're feeling satiated at this moment.
I feel like I'm entitled to probably having September off.
I feel like that's fair.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you off right now. Take September off, Sophiane.
Thank you. Thanks. That's really kind.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm here for you.
Yeah, I mean, October has a few races.
Okay.
Probably road races.
All right.
Shorter.
Well, listen, my friend, I literally have a good 10 or 15 more questions here that I could ask you. You're one of my favorite people to talk to easily. You're so entertaining, and you're a blessing to the sport. You are pushing it forward, and you're just putting it all out there, man. And I appreciate that. I thank you for that. And I know there's a lot of people out there that would echo that. It's so fucking impressive. And congratulations on all of your success this year.
Thanks, man.
And looking forward to a lot more racing from you and more interviews.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to talk with you as always.
Yeah, well, take care of yourself, man. And one question though: how are you going to celebrate the win and the course record? What are you going to do to celebrate?
Having a big dinner with my family tonight.
Wonderful. Well, enjoy that, my friend. You earned it.
I will.
All right, take care of yourself.
Bye.
All right. That's all we got today. I could have stayed on the phone with him easily for another hour or two. I had so many questions that I didn't get to, but that's okay. I know he's always super generous with his time, so I know that we'll definitely have to have him come back on again in the very near future, hopefully. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And just remember that sleep is really overrated. Just ride your damn bike.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes.